Hello everybody. Firstly, I'd just like to welcome you to this webinar where we'll be talking about the UK's parliamentary Brexit vote and next moves, which should be held on Tuesday the 11th of December, where we go from here, and the potential trading opportunities that will continue to appear as a result of the Brexit issue. My name is Sasha and I'm a financial analyst from the research department at 4Trade. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them, or please call us and ask to speak to a senior account manager who'll be happy to help. Before I go any further, please take a moment to read our risk warning and disclaimer. I'm sure you know that although gains can be made trading CFDs, losses can be incurred too, and you need to be aware of this. Now, let's talk about market opportunities. If you don't know what they are, allow me to explain. A market opportunity is a one-page briefing containing market analysis, and our goal is to provide you with a simple-to-understand opportunity to trade on the markets. We will select an instrument such as gold or a currency pair and tell you our very best estimate on its price direction so that you can trade on it if you want to. Market opportunities are produced by the research department on a daily basis, according to market conditions and based on historical evidence. A market opportunity consists of fundamental analysis, geopolitical events, and technical analysis that includes a pivot point and support and resistance levels. It's important to understand it's solely your decision whether you trade on market opportunities or not. So here is an example of a market opportunity. You can see fundamental analysis on what's going on with the pound-dollar currency pair. Below you can see some geopolitical events that can influence the currency pair, such as the resignation of the UK's Brexit minister, or positive employment figures in the US. It's important to look at the pivot point on which the calculations are based. If the price reaches this level that you can see on the screen, that is 1.2840, this shows the right moment in our estimation to come in and open a trading position, had you decided to trade on this market opportunity. You can see that this was a weekly market opportunity, although we also have regular daily trading opportunities. You can see the trend direction here, which is down. It's important that you know how to use the stop loss and take profit options. You have support and resistance levels here. At these points you can put a stop loss and take profit, and on the right hand side of the page you have calculations. If you close the position using take profit, you can expect these kinds of profits at support 1, 2 and 3. In green. If the price is going against you, then you can potentially have a loss of the amount shown at resistance 1, 2 and 3, and that's in red. The pivot point is the starting price based on which resistance and support levels are calculated. These support and resistance levels here are for daily, weekly or monthly terms. Finally, profit and loss calculations are based on a one-lot trading volume. So let's give you a brief history of Brexit. In 2016, June the 23rd, the UK held a rather bitter and divisive referendum, which was expected to produce a narrow majority in favour of remaining in the EU. The leaderships of all the three main political parties supported European Union membership. However, almost 52% of the country voted to leave the European Union, while just over 48% voted to remain. Since then, the Conservative government, propped up by the Northern Ireland Democratic Unionists, had been negotiating with the EU, while the Conservative Party itself is divided on the issue. Those that want a clean break from the EU with no trade agreement are referred to as hard Brexiters, and those that want to continue some kind of customs agreement are called supporters of a soft Brexit. There is a third group that is gathering some political momentum, who are pushing for another referendum that want to remain in the European Union. This division across towns, the country, and across political parties and the diplomatic battle with the EU has caused numerous trading opportunities, which has seen huge changes in the value of the British pound. In any event, the likely outcome of a no-deal Brexit that supporters of a hard Brexit see as no bad thing, in the short term, would cause the pound to crash, and for British and some continental European stocks to fall. So you can see here the reaction of the currency market to the Brexit result. This is the GBP USD. As many economists predicted, the markets would not be kind to the British pound in the event of a vote for Brexit. On the 23rd of June 2016, the day of the result, the GBP USD collapsed by more than 11%. Similar losses were recorded against multiple currencies on that day for the GBP. Here we have a Brexit timeline. Since then, the pound has been highly volatile, being far more affected by the Brexit issue than any other, including interest rate movements. Although when the two factors combine, pound currency pairs can move sharply. I'll give you a brief account of political developments of Brexit which have affected the markets, causing great movements in the pound. And then I'll go over a few other Brexit-related events that affected sterling. So on this timeline, we can see what I showed you, with the pound crashing over 11% after Brexit and then stagnating. The pound rose when elections were announced in 2017 over optimism that there would be a more unified government position on Brexit. However, elections were no help, since Theresa May's Conservatives won, but lost their majority in Parliament, so the pound didn't recover so much as stabilise. In September 2017, the first step towards Brexit, the repeal bill was passed, and you can see the pound grew in value against the dollar. In December 2017, the EU moved to the second phase of negotiations after the EU agreed on the Brexit divorce bill. The pound thus grew to its highest level since the referendum result. In March 2018, the UK and EU make further progress, causing the pound to climb further. But on April the 18th, Prime Minister May suffers an important defeat in the House of Lords, which sent sterling downward, until relatively recently, when optimism over a deal gained momentum again. Much of the headlines have been negative regarding Brexit, so sterling has seen some quite sharp falls. For example, the Bank of England Governor Carney has been asked for his view on Brexit following interest rate decisions during parliamentary scrutiny or in the media. In an interview on the BBC on August 3, 2018, Carney stated that there was an uncomfortably high chance that Britain would leave the EU without a deal. He said that the Bank of England ran an economic simulation in the event of a no-deal Brexit, which suggested that the UK will fall into recession while unemployment would rise. As you can see here, the pound traded lower against the dollar by 0.2%. So, the main sticking point. There are a number of points that the Conservative Party rebels are very unhappy about. Too many to cover here, but hard Brexiters say her deal won't deliver what the referendum sought. They say her deal would leave the UK subject to EU rules, but without any say about these rules. The backstop is the solution offered to Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is part of the UK and will leave the EU, but shares a border with the Republic of Ireland, which will stay in the EU. The EU has border posts with non-EU countries, and Ireland has a troubled political history, which involved years of killings and terrorist attacks by paramilitaries. The building of border posts runs the risk of reawakening national tensions, and some fear the return of the paramilitaries and terrorism. The backstop is an insurance policy to ensure there is no hard border, even if no formal deal is reached. The backstop is an insurance policy to ensure there is no hard border, even if no formal deal is reached on trade and security. But it would mean that Northern Ireland would stay in the EU customs union, which could mean some kind of border would exist between the UK and Northern Ireland. So let's talk for a moment about the current situation. We are entering the final phase of Brexit, with the Brexit withdrawal agreement being debated last week, and a meaningful vote will take place on December the 11th. Over the past week or two, we have seen great volatility on the pound as investors trade the news. To give a recent example, on December the 4th, reports emerged stating that a senior advisor to the European Court of Justice outlined that the UK can unilaterally abandon the Article 50 process. If the court endorses this opinion, which is likely according to analysts, this effectively means that the process of leaving the European Union could be reversed, legally speaking, without EU approval. This would be much smoother than the UK government and Brexit campaigners have claimed. Good news for those hoping to reverse Brexit, but for now this is still the least likely scenario. The pound, as you can see, jumped by 0.80% against the dollar, close to a weekly high upon this news. Any events reported that suggest that the UK may not leave the EU or that a soft Brexit will take place supports the pound, while news suggesting a no-deal Brexit outcome tends to drive the value of the pound down. So, at 7 p.m. GMT on December the 11th, the Brexit withdrawal agreement or meaningful vote was due to take place. But at the time of this webinar, it's unclear if there will be a vote on Tuesday. It may be that the government decides to hold the vote at a later date, or another decision is taken. But if and when the government wins the vote, all that remains is for European Union states to ratify the agreement, and the UK will leave the EU at the end of March. But this scenario seems unlikely according to almost everyone involved, and the Brexit issue is set to continue to dominate UK politics. There are many variables, but analysts believe that the most likely outcome is that the government will lose the vote, and would wait some days before coming back to offer Parliament a second and final chance to accept the Brexit withdrawal bill. In the meantime, the government hopes that MPs will be scared by market turmoil and the very real prospect of a no-deal Brexit, causing them to change their minds and go for Theresa May's soft Brexit deal. If MPs still vote against it, Prime Minister May might resign, triggering a leadership election to replace her. At the same time, the opposition Labour Party might change its position and put forward a vote in Parliament for a second referendum on Brexit. Pro-EU Conservative rebels could join them, since they fear that the only other option would be a no-deal Brexit. Thus, a second referendum might follow. On the other hand, at any stage, Parliament could table and win a no-confidence vote in the government. If passed, a general election would be held. At this stage, the Conservatives could be led by hard Brexiters, or an individual such as Boris Johnson, the former Foreign Secretary. And the Labour Party may change position and support a second referendum, offering the British public a clear choice between in or out. Whether this could happen before the UK is due to leave the EU or after is an open question, although the EU may be minded to agree to temporarily extend the exit date until an election result or referendum result is known. Whatever happens, there are plenty of opportunities to be had trading on the pound in the coming weeks. Of course, we at 4Trade will be following any developments that affect the markets very closely, so please do get in touch with a senior account manager if you have any questions or want to take advantage of the trading opportunities that this event will present. Until then, goodbye, and please join us again at 4Trade soon.